My guest today is Kari Morrissey. Kari Morrissey serves as the director of the Anoka County Emergency Communications Center, bringing more than 34 years of service to the 911 profession. Beginning her career as a public safety telecommunicator, she has spent decades on the front lines of emergency response and now leads the center with a focus on innovation, operational excellence, and compassionate leadership. Carrie is a passionate advocate for mental wellness among public safety telecommunicators and works to strengthen support systems for those who answer calls during people's most difficult moments.
Anytime I've done a promotion, I felt like, I don't like something. I want to be able to advocate more for change, training, whatever. So that's why I've made a step up in my career. But that's the one thing I really do miss. I miss answering the phone. I enjoyed talking to people. I enjoyed helping them. I like that part of the job. It's so rewarding. Most of us that do this or choose this career, we want to help people. We are really the first responders. I mean, we answer that phone. It starts with us, and we have to be as professional as we can. Our call taker handled the call wrong and told them, sorry, we're not sending anyone out, hung up with them. That's against our policy. We don't say no here at Anoka County. So if I say, no, we're not sending police in Blaine, maybe they want to go on that call. So when people ask for police, we send them out. The dispatcher said no, or the telecommunicator said no. And a few minutes later, we got a call that a gun was pulled. I remember hearing in the debriefing, they were talking about some defensive wounds or like the kids shielding themselves and being shot. That sticks with me today. I'm like, I really didn't need to know that. Because our imaginations do go a little crazy anyway, but I was such a new person then. Like that sticks with me still today, 3 decades later. So that makes us rethink wellness a little in the mental health part of it. Like, well, who should be at the debriefings and maybe which one should we be at? Yes, 911 needs to be included, but do they really need all the details? Or, I don't know, do we handle it a little differently?
Welcome to Iron and Empathy. I'm your host, Drew Moldenhauer. Iron and Empathy is sponsored by Blue Ethos Specialized Training, a national leader in workplace violence prevention, active threat preparedness, and de-escalation training. At Blue Ethos, we don't just focus on safety. We help organizations improve workplace culture by strengthening communication, increasing situational awareness, and creating environments where people feel supported, empowered, and prepared to intervene early before problems escalate. Thanks for being here. Let's get into today's conversation. My guest today is Kari Morrissey. Kari Morrissey serves as the director of the Anoka County Emergency Communications Center, bringing more than 34 years of service to the 911 profession. Beginning her career as a public safety telecommunicator, she has spent decades on the front lines of emergency response and now leads the center with a focus on innovation, operational excellence, and compassionate leadership. Carrie has also helped advance 911 education and workforce development, serving as an adjunct professor at Hennepin Technical College and Anoka Ramsey Community College, where she taught in the 911 certificate program and mentored future communications professionals. She holds several professional credentials, including NENA's Emergency Number Professional, ENP, NENA Center Manager Certification, CMCP, and FEMA Communications Unit Leader, COML, training. Carrie is a passionate advocate for mental wellness among public safety telecommunicators and works to strengthen support systems for those who answer calls during people's most difficult moments. Under her leadership, the center has embraced next-generation 911 technologies that reduce workload, improve efficiency, and provide telecommunicators with modern tools to better serve their communities. Welcome, Carrie. Where are you joining us from today?
I'm in Andover at the Anoka County Emergency Communications Center.
Fantastic. All right. That's a brand new, beautiful building you guys have over there. Tell us a little bit about that building.
We moved in almost a year ago, at the end of this month, and it's a state-of-the-art building. We came from the dungeon. A lot of dispatch centers are in the basement because we have to work 24/7 through the storms. So they just thought, logically, let's put them in the basement. But we are now above ground. We have a very strong fortified building that we can still work through the storms and get natural daylight. We doubled our size. We went from 22 seats in Anoka to 44 seats over here total. And it's just part of our growth that we needed to do. We're moving towards more career paths here too. So that helped with having more seats available. We have a lot of amenities here that are keeping our dispatchers healthy, both physically and mental health wise. So it's really a great building. Anoka County was very generous, and we joked that they probably felt sorry for us for being the make for go on. But they literally, there's nothing we can't really think of that we want that we don't have here.
It's fantastic. And I got the opportunity to go on a tour there about a year ago, and it was absolutely amazing. And I've worked with Carrie on a couple projects, done some training with her telecommunicators there, and I absolutely love your crew there. You're a great leader. I just love taking the time to do this podcast with you. So thank you for being here. Carrie, for listeners who may not fully understand the role, what does a typical shift look like for a 911 public safety telecommunicator? What does that look like?
Well, they get to work. Most people know the first thing to do is figure out what you're having for lunch, for real. That's the goal of the day. But it is, we cross-train. So we teach our staff here to work 4 different roles. They're a call taker, the information channel, police, or fire dispatch. So, but the call starts off with a ringing phone. So we're the first ones to answer that line. So it's call triaging. It's getting to know where they are and what's going on really quickly. And we have to be courteous and professional. It doesn't matter how the caller's treating us, because they're usually upset. They don't call 911 for good reasons. So we gather that critical information, get the call started, maybe now, and then add to it or complete the call, depending on what it is. But they have to triage. It's a really important part of the job. Then we have the dispatch side of it. Here at Anoka, the call takers process call for service that goes to fire or police dispatch. And then they have to basically understand, who are we sending? What's a proper response? A lot of our fire rescue agencies are only if requested. So they have to keep an eye on updates from Alina, because we have a CAD to CAD interface. So we can see what Alina is updating on the calls. You're tracking multiple incidents at once. You're trying to keep officers updated if anything's added from the call taker, if it's an in-progress call. So you have to track the pertinent information. Documentation and data entry, again, so important. We need to get it right for the responders on the street. If we don't get something right, if we enter a plate wrong in a call and it comes back as stolen, now an officer might be making a felony stop and it's not really the right vehicle. So accuracy is important under that chaos while it's happening. Again, being on the radio, clear, concise information. You got to stay calm, even if the situation's not calm, because they rely on you to be calm. That's reassuring voice on the other side of the radio. We got to coordinate with partner agencies. We talk about, you have to shift focus a lot because of all the technology and 911 looking at different platforms, but we also have to have a radio ear. Anyone's in 911, they talk about the radio ear. You're on the phone, you're on the radio, but you're listening in the background for the other things going on around your center, just partnering agencies. In case we need mutual aid from a bordering county, we have to reach out on the radio. We have to hear if they're coming. They might be hailing us for help. So you're always in go mode. You don't really have a lot of downtime in dispatch. And I think a lot of people don't realize that. We also throw in just the calls themselves. So you have that stress you have to handle on a daily basis, because you get really busy sometimes. And depending, even if you're at a smaller center, you're doing it all then. You're doing the call taking, the dispatching at the same time, where we at least have divided job duties, so we can help with that. Staying up on technology, that's tough. We're doing a better job of change management now. I will say I got a little, like all the shiny new stuff, so we went a little too fast, but we're going down now and being more mindful of how we approach new technology, just because we are very innovative here. You want to make sure it actually helps and doesn't create a lot of stress when you bring in the technology. And we have a lot of policy and protocol that we have to follow too, because there is so much at stake when you answer that 911 call, that if you get things wrong, it can set a ripple effect to the responders. So it's a lot it's kind of like I say, the weight of the world's on the person answering that first 911 call for help.
It really is. And that's where I have a tremendous amount of respect for everything that you guys do down there. I'll say, from being a police officer that didn't really fully understand what telecommunicators did. And, back then we used to call them dispatchers and, telecommunicators, and coming down there and seeing how many screens you guys are looking at, phone calls, the amount of multitasking that takes place to me was just shocking. It's something that I couldn't do. So I have just a tremendous amount of respect for what you guys do. And I truly don't think most people understand the stress that goes with the job and the human side that comes with it too, because you are dealing with people when they're calling in. Some of them, it's the worst day of their lives. And that leads me to my next question is, what types of calls do telecommunicators handle on a daily basis, and what might surprise people most about the job?
A lot of calls, 911 calls are, I guess, your typical calls, a lot of medical emergencies, fights in progress, domestics in progress, shoplifters. It's that wide range. You can take even a parking complaint can go south, or someone had we had a person in line at a car wash that was upset because someone cut in front of them. And our call taker handled the call wrong and told them, sorry, we're not sending anyone out, hung up with them, which is that's against our policy. Again, I talk about knowing policy and procedure. We don't say no here at Anoka County because we have 11 agencies. So if I say, no, we're not sending the police in Blaine, maybe they want to go on that call. So we generally, when people ask for police, we send them out. That case, the dispatcher said no, or the telecommunicator said no. And a few minutes later, we got a call that a gun was pulled. And we're like, wow, we don't say no because we don't know what's going on. It's not our job to say yes or no. We triage the call and send the appropriate help. So you have a lot of that where, like I said, that was a person cut in line at a car wash. You wouldn't think that's going to go south, but it did because the caller said no, or the call taker said no to the response. And then we also, I think the biggest thing that would surprise most people is how many 911 or non-emergency calls we actually handle in our 911 centers. Most of us, I would say probably 2/3 of our incoming calls are non-emergency calls, either on our non-emergency lines or they're on the 911 line and they're a non-emergency. And those are the ones that kind of trip us up because we train our staff to answer 911 calls. We train them for that. So then when they're taking all these other calls that, we're calling out public works after hours, we're calling out CID, criminal investigation division for calls. We do so much behind the scenes that people don't know we do. And it's hard to train for that sometimes. But yeah, there's a lot.
Yes, there is. And I remember you telling me about this, and it was one of those things that stuck in my head that, something I personally just didn't even think about is, in my calls as a police officer, I might have a busy shift where I get 10 to 12 calls. And for me, that was a lot based on the agency I worked at. And when you told me the one time, police officers might take 10 to 12 calls, dispatchers are taking 100 to 150 per shift. It just really made me think, wow, yeah, that's a lot because they're getting them from all over the county. Then they're having to dispatch them out. Some are just non-emergency. Some are emergency. So when you're thinking about that, the call load that they're taking is way more than the ones that they're dispatching out to the individual officers, which was interesting for me to hear. Many people assume dispatchers, telecommunicators are just answering phones. Can you explain the level of decision-making and responsibility involved in the role?
That's when you answer the call, especially 911, it's 911, what's your address to your emergency? So you have to get that first. And some people don't know where they are, or they tell you wrong. So most of us train to visually verify that what the caller said is accurate. You'd be shocked at how wrong people can be. So then we have to ask clarifying questions. Like, are you sure? 'Cause I'm showing you here. So they have to be thinking ahead of the game. Like, okay, what you said isn't matching what your 911 location is showing me. So then you have to ask clarifying questions. Then you have to determine what's going on because most of us have problem nature codes or event types. And we have to use the proper code because that initiates the correct response if you're using some computer-aided dispatch for your response plans. And that can be questionable. I might think it's one thing. The police dispatcher may think it's another. So you just have to go with your best thing. And we teach people your first few words need to support the event type or the problem nature because that's what's going to get help going. You need to learn a lot. But then that's when you get into, well, how do we triage? It's like, well, when did this happen? Because that one is a big deal. We'll have people call up and say, I've just been robbed. You go, okay, tell me what happened. They're like, well, I just got home and my bike's missing. Okay, so did you see it happen? So it's just that when is a really important question for us. And then when we get that established, that's when you decide do I need to send this to queue and keep going on, or can I just finish the whole call? But then we get into officer safety, and not just officer safety, but the caller safety and any victims that might be hurt, their safety. So our telecommunicators gathering information to keep our responders safe, but also the caller and any victims that might be involved. So it's a lot that they're doing. It's not as simple as answering a phone like a lot of people think.
Yes. And in Minnesota, a high school diploma is the highest level of education required for PST. What skills or personal qualities really determine whether someone succeeds in this job?
A lot of it is honestly being able to go with the flow because you don't know what you're picking up. when the 911 line rings, that's kind of what catches people. They either like that excitement of, ooh, I don't know what it's going to be, and you like that, or else it scares you and you don't like that because you don't have control over what that call is going to be. And we've trained our staff that, again, that's why you ask questions in a certain order. You have that repetition of how you ask your questions, because then no matter what the call is, you should still be asking the right questions. But you have to be able to make split-second decisions. Again, like, is this a priority or not? You have to be able to just stay calm, concise, compassionate with the caller, be courteous, but you have to take control of the call. We always say there's customer service, but then there's customer service the 911 way. And we have to control the call. We have to cut in. We have to cut people off and stop them at times. And we try and train our staff. If they're giving you good information, let them talk. But once it stops, it's not being valuable information anymore. You got to cut in. You have to take control of the call. And that's hard to train people to do, especially nowadays. They're on their phones more. They don't communicate verbally as much as they used to. So to try and teach those skills to someone that isn't a good communicator in person or over the phone can be difficult. You have to be able to compartmentalize a bit because, again, like you mentioned too, we can handle 150 calls a shift here on a 12-hour shift. It's call to call to call to call. And you're going to have some true 911 emergencies, and then you're going to have the ones where you just handle the call of someone not breathing or a child not breathing. And the next call is the neighbor complaining about the kids playing basketball because they're trying to sleep and they're a night shifter. And you're like, well, I am too, but I'm here on overtime. So you have to just be non-judgmental. But it's hard. It's hard to find people that can do the job. So we look for people that can shift their focus a lot. Honestly, gamers, we always joke sociable gamers. If you're a social gamer, this is a job for you.
That makes sense.
Yeah. But it's just a lot. You've seen the setup. Anyone in 911 knows we have 249-inch monitors. Those are their CAD, the computer-aided dispatch monitors. And that's where the majority of their time is spent looking around for stuff at the different applications. But if you can't, you got to be able to think ahead too. You're asking the caller a question, you're typing their answer, and you're already thinking of your next question. And you have to be able to do this efficiently and fluidly and not miss stuff. And that's really hard.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot going on with that. And looking back at your early days on the headset, what was the biggest learning curve for you personally?
When I started, I came here to Anoka. Actually, 34 years ago today is when I started here. But I came from a little center, New Ulm Police Department is where I started my career. And it was a shock coming up here to the cities, as I say. I was
the
like,
big
hey,
cities.
Me too, big cities, yeah. And for me, in New Ulm, it was different because I worked night shifts and we'd have 1 or 2 calls a night. And it was usually the escort from the one grocery store to the bank where the 3 officers working would fight over who got it. And that was it. So it's different. But then when it got busy, you really had to know what you're doing because you're the only one there. You're, like I said, you're answering the phone, you're sending police, fire, EMS, whatever's needed. And then if any other calls happen to come in, you got to try and answer those too. And so for me, moving from New Ulm up to here, it shocked me. I'm like, oh, 2-stage center? What's that? I didn't even know like what that was. I'm like, oh, you train for 2 different, I got it now. You train different skill sets and then you learn as you go and grow. But one of my biggest things is kind of funny, but I had to get so used to a road being a border. Like I had to ask, we talk about clarifying questions. Is it northbound University or southbound? Is it eastbound Highway 10 or westbound? Because that actually affects response plans and who you dispatch because those streets are like University divides a couple cities. So it's understanding the importance of why you ask the questions. And then we have to do a better job of explaining why when we train new people in because some of them don't get it. Or one of our biggest struggles can be getting people from other agencies coming to Anoka County because we train the Anoka way. Anyone that hires staff that have experience, they train their way. It's your agency's way. Your responders are used to hearing calls dispatched a certain way. They're going to talk to you a certain way. So you have to train your way. For me, it was a little easier because I came from New Ulm and we just did what we did because I was the only one working. So they had to, I just did what I did. But here, it's a lot. I mean, I think back then I got a Hudson map book. Every Christmas we got a Hudson map book and we drew in our sectors and you had to know that, tabbed your book so you knew if you had to give someone directions. But then now it's so much technology. So, I mean, just the changes from that. But my biggest thing was understanding sectors when I started, and there's 2 cities that could cover this. It was confusing then, but it's just understanding the whole big picture, especially when you get to a bigger agency.
Yeah, and technology definitely makes things change. And can you share a call that has stayed with you throughout your career? Maybe one that really illustrates the impact that telecommunicators have on people's lives?
I can actually. Speaking of Ramsey, you were an officer there. They had, when I was fairly new, it was a homicide, and a kid had come home and shot mom, 2 brothers, and dad came home and found it. And he left the house, called 911. And I remember the house was, back then, it was 1992-ish is when I started. So it was sometime in my earlier years. But the house was somewhat, rural. It was 2 officers working overnights in Ramsey, maybe. Some Anoka officers, West Side County car. And Ramsey said, we need help because this is the rural call. The caller was panicked. One of our supervisors that answered the call. And she did a great job with the call. But because it took a while to get cars there because of where the caller was located. But then they were setting up a perimeter. They wanted to make sure they didn't know for sure, because you have to verify once you get there what was going on. And the caller got so upset with our call taker. He was swearing at her. What, do you want my social security number too? Not understanding she was trying to do her job and keep him on the phone, keep him safe, keep him available to answer more questions from the responders. But at the same time, I was a call taker working, and I remember an Anoka officer was going around, and he's like screaming at me on a side channel, like, I need directions or now. And I'm flipping through my Hudson map book, like trying to figure out how to get him there, because we didn't have the technology we have today. And then it kind of delves into, it was a horrible call, bad thing that happened. And then it goes into the mental health part of it, where I was forced to go to the debriefing. Like, you're going, this is a bad call, all of you have to go. And that's what sticks with me about the whole call. And I'll say one thing. We always tell our people, the bad thing has already happened before it hits 911. So we do our role, know your role, get the call going, keep people safe. That's our role. But I remember hearing in the debriefing, they were talking about some defensive wounds, or like the kids shielding themselves and being shot. That sticks with me today. I'm like, I really didn't need to know that, because our imaginations do go a little crazy anyway. But I was such a new person then. Like, that sticks with me still today, 3 decades later, that I didn't really need to quite know that much. So that makes us rethink wellness a little in the mental health part of it. Like, well, who should be at the debriefings, and maybe which one should we be at? Yes, 911 needs to be included, but do they really need all the details? Or, I don't know, do we handle it a little differently? I mean, for me to have that call stick in my head, because it almost made it worse going to the debriefing because of the details I didn't really need to know. That made it more sad, I guess.
Yeah, it's one of those ones that can stick with you. And I think every person in that field of public safety has something like that sticks with them throughout it. And it is good, nice now that they have, resources for people that they can have these debriefing counseling. And, maybe back when this was in the 90s, it wasn't as good back then, but that's something that I think that they're doing a good job now of improving on, because of how important that is. And, at the time, I remember when I would go to some of these calls as well, it wouldn't really hit me at the time, but later on in your career, like you're talking about, it sticks with you, and then it can show up sometimes. And it's stuff that people don't realize. And you think, okay, well, you're just a telecommunicator. You're just sitting back behind a radio and some screens. You're not even there. You're not even witnessing it, but you're the one that's having this person on the phone talking to you about that and describing that. And then you're going to a debriefing and they're explaining even more about it. That stuff does stick with you. So I think that's really, really good that you bring that up. And one of the things that you said in here that something that we teach on too, is that stress transference. And it's amazing that I think a lot of people don't understand is, as a dispatcher, if you're getting yourself worked up on a call and it is a hot call, and you are getting, you're almost yelling on the radio, or you're getting worked up yourself because of the seriousness of the call, you can sometimes transfer that stress onto the responding officer, making them drive faster, act more aggressive when they get to the call. But then it can also flip-flop, just like that Anoka officer that was yelling at you. Now that can kind of throw you off, because this person's yelling at you. They're transferring their stress back onto you, and how that kind of works back and forth with each other. And a lot of people don't realize that, but we're human beings sitting behind these calls. So is there maybe another one just in your past, one call or moment that reminds you why this profession matters so much?
I think honestly, it's more the cumulative. It's just helping people. Like I miss working on the floor. I will say that I feel like when you take promotion, kind of my little spiel here, when you promote, you should be doing it for the right reason. And anytime I've done a promotion, I felt like, I'm like, I don't like something. I want to be able to advocate more for change, training, whatever. So that's why I've made a step up in my career. But that's the one thing I really do miss. I miss answering the phone. I enjoyed talking to people. I enjoyed helping them through whatever it was. If it was, really the worst day of their life, or if it was simply reuniting them with their lost God. It was fun to help people. I like that part of the job. And it's so rewarding. I think that's the biggest thing. I think most of us that do this or choose this career, we want to help people. And we are really the first responders. I mean, we answer that phone. It starts with us, and we have to be as professional as we can. And we have to, us as leaders now, as managers in 911, we have to train our folks to be able to do that. We have to give them the, wellness care that they need and just be there for them. And one of our goals we talk about as leaders in our metro area, like we got to do better for those coming up behind us. And it's really the focus.
For sure. Absolutely. Be the trailblazer that way. And you mentioned this earlier, but technology and emergency communications has evolved quickly. How is technology changing the way telecommunicators do their jobs today?
We have what we call over-the-top applications right now. It enables us to gather next generation 911 technologies or use those technologies. So people always joke about Uber knowing where you are, but 911 doesn't. Well, there are applications now that we can know where you are a little better than the legacy phone system, the 911 call handling equipment. When someone calls 911, you're kind of put in a little pie-shaped form of, we think you're here. It's gotten better over the years, but now we have these applications that we can get the Android and Google Map or iPhone and Android map location device data sent to us. We can get a spoken location if a caller tells us where they are through one of our applications. So now instead of looking at one location on a map, being like a little icon, we have 3. So again, I say about we have to make sure they're really where they say they are. Now we have 3 icons that we can look at and go, okay, you really probably are here. So maybe we start verifying a little differently than we did in the past with making them repeat everything. Now we have a visual verification with 3 different address points popping up, so we know they're really there. So technology changing there. We can get video in. We can get pictures in, lost people. We've used that a lot. If someone's missing, like, hey, do you have a recent picture of them? Especially if it's a child and they've been out on their bike for, half an hour, 45 minutes, and they're in red shorts and blue T-shirt. Well, you're going to see a ton of kids now suddenly in red shorts and blue T-shirts on bicycles. But now if we can attach a picture of that missing child or the elderly person with dementia or Alzheimer's, we can attach a picture to that CAD call. Now you know exactly what you're looking for. So we've been using technology that way. We've used in a couple good cases to get the correct response going sooner than later. So it's just helped us a ton. One of the biggest calls we've had recently was September of last year, 2025. We had a hostage call in Fridley. And the person had texted 911 saying, hey, I need help. They're not letting me out of the bathroom at this hotel in Fridley. So police showed up. And the 2 people answered her and said, nope, it was us. We're fine. We're good. We're okay. But it wasn't them. So they left. The police left, got a text about half an hour later. And the guy's like, I am bleeding out. These people have beaten me. I am not doing well. I need help. So our call taker sent the link, a video link, said, okay, can you show me your injuries? And he was able to. And you could see that guy was visibly injured. There was blood all over the bathroom floor. That changed the mindset. It's like, oh my gosh, this is not someone messing around. We need to get help out there. Fridley went out there again. The 2 people that they spoke with previously barricaded the door. And we were able to share the videos, and that initiated a SWAT response right away. Wow. So there wasn't this, what's going on? They could see it. We didn't have to paint the picture. We could show them. And that's where technology is taking us now.
So if I'm understanding this correctly, because I saw a little bit of it when I toured your center, is you can physically send a link to somebody's phone now where they can flip it so that they can record or show you where they are. Like if they're lost in the woods somewhere and they're like, I'm near a dock, or I'm near this kind of area, or I'm being held hostage here, you can send them a link. And how does that all work? So do they just click on the link, or what happens?
Yep. So we can send either a location link or video, or both actually. So they click on it and it shares their location with us. So now we have a more accurate location. So even if they call our non-emergency line, we can still utilize this feature. We can still send this link to anyone. But they click on it and they're either allowing access to their location through their cellular device, or to their camera, video, everything. So that allows them to either live stream. They can videotape in, or they can send us a video they have in their phone or a picture with just one touch. By them acknowledging, yes, I'm going to share my information with Anoka County 911. They can do that, and then we have it as soon as they share it with us. What we do on our end then is create a link that we put on our CAD call, or the call for service that we create for police and fire. Anyone assigned to that call can just click on that link, and it opens up in a web browser on their mobile in their vehicles, and they can now see what we're seeing.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's tremendous. And now, do all telecommunication centers have this technology, or are you guys kind of one of the only ones that are piloting or have this?
We were probably the first in Minnesota. I would say we're the first that went to this level. There are more coming that are trying to do more, but it's, again, part of it's legislation. There's not a lot of legislation out there about 911 getting video at the state level. We had to develop our own Anoka County policies and work with our county attorney to figure out what our policies were going to be. And a lot of agencies don't have the support we have here, I will say, because I know a lot of PSAPs 911 centers want to do this, but some of them, the people they report to make them, well, let's wait and see. Let's let Anoka pave the way first, and then get through the hiccups and then jump on board. And a lot of people are starting to, because they wanted to do it. It's just they couldn't. And not a lot of agencies do it because their leaders don't quite understand what it is. So we're always very open to letting people come out and see it. We'll show you how we're using our technology here. We actually have Otter Tail County here actually today as we're talking. They sent 4 people out, 2.5-hour drive to come see us, our platform that we used. Prepared is the one we use. But they're like, can we come see it? Because we've heard about it and we want to know more. So we've hosted probably a dozen agencies that we've come out and said, come see how we're using technology. They ask if they can, and we're like, yep, we'll show you. We feel it's important to share what we're learning and share our lessons learned too on how to make things an easier adaptation if they do go that route.
Fantastic. Yeah, I remember just seeing that stuff, how important that was. And one of the dispatchers I was sitting with, when he was telling me about the information, he was able to show me kind of some of the ways that you had someone that was lost one time in the woods and how they could turn their, camera phone basically on, and you guys could help locate them, knowing the intersections and do it. I think that's just fantastic technology, and I think more people should have it. Carrie, as director, how do you support the mental health and wellness of your team who hear people on their worst days?
We make it a priority. Back in the day when I started, it wasn't a priority. It was basically that suck it up mentality. And some people are still a little stubborn that they feel like it should be. But I think here at Anoka County, I'm proud of our staff. They're so supportive of each other. And if our supervisors their frontline supervisors are amazing. If someone takes a bad call, because of all the technology we have, the supervisors, they're able to monitor in real time a lot better what's going on in the room with the technology we're using. So they can get keywords that pop up. So they're like, oh, they just took a med not breathing, then they'll check, is it a child? Because they're harder than maybe adults sometimes. Or if there's a shooting call or a stabbing or a robbery in progress, they'll know to key into those a little more. And if it's a tough call, then they go up, hey, are you okay? Go take a walk. Get an extra break, get off the floor. They're really good at checking in on the frontline staff and taking care of them. And then if it's something that, there's a debriefing or we're invited to it, we send people. We leave it up to them. You want to go? We're going to send you, because it wasn't that way when I started. And it was, you're either forced to go or no, we're not going to go because we don't think you matter because you just answered the phone. It's like, well, a little more to that, but.
Right.
And we have, actually, when we moved into this building, so March we moved in. So January of 2025, we acknowledged they need more time off the floor. A lot of centers don't have time for breaks, for real breaks. My entire career, every 4 hours you worked, you got 15 minutes. And that was it. You can't do a lot in 15 minutes. So it was pretty much get up, use the restroom, get water, get your food, eat at your comfort. So January 2025, we made it a thing. We're like, we're just giving half-hour breaks on top of the 15s because you need them. You need a little time off before. Our goal is to go to 45, especially being here now. We have a wellness room that they can work out in with equipment. We have a massage chair. We have a wooded area that our county parks actually paved out a nice path for us. So you can get out in nature. Yet we're still, you don't know it because you're in the back of our employee secured area. They can go sit in the woods or go walk in the woods. It's not a big path, but it's so much better than what we had. And just acknowledging it, that we know we want people to care for themselves. And I think a big thing, I get a lot of the work-life balance. You know, people are like, well, you want us to take care of ourselves, but you mandate this overtime. I'm like, yeah, as leaders, it's our job. We have to staff the center at a minimum. That's our job. And a lot of people getting into the career, they don't understand there's mandated overtime. They might get called in on short notice overtime. There's training that they have to do. There's mandated meetings. But our job here at the center is to take care of you when you're here. And that's what I keep telling them. Like, my job is to make sure you're okay when you're here. I hope when you go home, you take care of yourself. I hope you're sleeping enough. I hope you're doing whatever else you do to make yourself healthy enough to come back into work. But if we can take better care of our people here when they're working, that's going to help us with retention and keeping people happier and mentally able to do the job, because it is hard. And our imaginations usually make things worse than they really are. So I think it's just about acknowledging that we know it's real. We hear you, and it's a tough job, and we're going to be here to take care of you.
Yeah. And I'll say personally, going around the state and training at a lot of the different PSAPs that I've been to, with some of the grant work that I got, yours has the best culture I've ever seen. Just the people around there that get along very good. You can just definitely tell when you go into some of these places, and this is just for us going into places of manufacturing. We go to a lot of places and do training. Yours has a very, very good culture. And that, I think, is a big thing to deal with your leadership there. And, what leadership lessons have you learned while leading the Anoka County Emergency Communication Center that maybe you didn't expect, or, now you're in this role as director? What have you learned just with that?
I think it's funny because being the director now, I'm like, number one, I don't always like being the one in charge because I don't want people reporting to me. I love operations. Sure. I love operations working smoothly. But as director now, you have to be the person that is the liaison with police and fire chiefs, and they don't always agree with everything you want to do for your center. And we're the dispatch. So we do control our policy and our procedures, but we collaborate. We want to make sure we're doing it right. And sometimes you get people on our end, the 911 side, like, we're not doing that because I'm like, no, hold off. Let's listen to the ask. And if we can do it, we should. So that's kind of the mindset our leadership team has taken, our admin team out here, is if we can, we should. So let's stop being because we've always done it this way, we're not changing. It's like, no, we're adapting, and we have adapted big time with all our technology, being innovative and moving forward like we have. But it's learning to not be go into defensive mode, defend like 911 side all the time now. It's like, I learned that as the assistant director. I'm like, I can't be so defensive. It's like, I got to be more open-minded and hear what the needs are from the public safety partners and the county admin. We report to them. So honestly, learning about the budgeting and how much things cost, and that we can't do everything that's asked, but we can do a little more sometimes. It's being that open-minded. And again, if we can, we should. If it's going to help, let's do it.
For sure.
Mindset.
Yeah, having that open mindset and collaboration with others. Yeah. And for someone listening today who might be considering a career in emergency communications, what would you tell them?
It's a great career. Make sure you really know what you're getting into schedule-wise, because it's 24/7. And when we say that, we mean that. You're going to miss birthdays, holidays, special events. You're going to miss basketball games, sporting events, plays, because we have to staff 24/7. So you are sacrificing to work here, but it's so worth it, because you're just, again, if your heart's in it and you're doing it for the right reason, you're going to find so much value in the job. It's understanding that it is very technology driven now. So it's not just answering the call. I hate to say just, but when I started, I answered the call and pretty much put the call in for service, and that was that. I used my Hudson Map book if I needed directions. Now there's so much more on top of it with all the technology, the cameras we can look at, the applications we can dig for information to get more information to pack the call. Because as a call picker, your job's to pack the call with information. So, I mean, and even moving on to the police and fire roles, to control those panels and manage all those incidents, it's so rewarding, and it's fun to be a part of that team, that public safety team. It is a public safety career. You have that mindset coming in, and you're going to miss some things. You're going to work, you're going to sacrifice. You're going to work odd hours. You're going to work nights, holidays, weekends, all that fun stuff, like I said. But if you come in knowing that, what you're really getting into a little better, it can help you have a long career and enjoy it.
Yeah. And I love the fact that with yours, police, fire, ambulance, all these ones in public safety, there is that team part, and I always thought the people that did sports and they loved the fact of being part of a team and having that camaraderie with people, that's huge. And I just saw when we went down to the APCO national conference with you and your team, how well everyone got along. I mean, that's pretty special. And especially when you're thinking about different teams and some don't get along. Yours has a great culture, and I think it's fantastic. So how can people get a hold of you, Carrie, if they want to get a hold of you?
They can reach out at the Anoka County website. We have anokacounty.mn.gov, and they can go to the 911 site, and our admin line's on there. Otherwise, my email, Kari.Morrissey@anokacounty.mn.gov. But yeah, we love people to learn more about the job, learn from us. We definitely have some lessons learned that we can share it if your agencies are thinking about growing their technology. But we want to help people get there.
Fantastic. And can you give me 2 books you recommend people read, just based on your experiences and being a director now and in your life, 2 books that you recommend people read?
I like Dare to Lead by Brené Brown. It helped me understand my role better as a leader. And then Just Be Happy by Michelle Lilly. She spoke at a conference, and I liked what she had to say. And it really is that simple. Just be happy. Whatever your role is in your 911 center, be happy with it and try and understand other people's roles, and you're going to be happy. But I like this. You just make it is what it is, and try and be happy about it.
Fantastic. Well, Carrie, thank you for sharing your story and for the incredible work you and your team do every day. Today's conversation is a reminder that behind every emergency response is a telecommunicator who stays calm, gathers critical information, and helps bring order to chaos. That takes strength, discipline, and heart. That's what Iron and Empathy is all about. Thank you very much for being here, Carrie.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
You bet.